scaling upright. Hey folks, time to talk about books. So here's the deal. Here's the, well, can't really see it. Well, let me just grab them. Here's the giant stack of books that I've read recently, I guess in the last 12 to 18 months. And that's not all of them. If you counted all the articles, magazines, and everything, it probably a stack about 4 feet high. Little side note, when I was in 4th grade summer, my father got gold fever, sold our house, and we trucked it all out to the backwoods of Alaska, where my bedroom was the bed of a truck with a canopy over it. And I had a mattress and a sleeping bag and a kerosene lamp. And I became a reader. I do believe it was 4 months out there. Quite an adventure, but my point is, I love books. Can't get enough books. So let's take a look at some of the books I've read. There's political books and also business books. So we'll get a little bit of both of those. And this also doesn't include fiction, even though I don't read that much fiction anymore. But there, I still do some light reading, like what's that guy, Terry Pratchett. Okay, so number 1 book, Sean's favorite book, well-worn, loved, take it with me everywhere. Who is it?
Me, Jess.
Oh, heavens to Betsy. Hey, what's up, Stud?
Hey.
Oh, yes. The candy. Fantastic.
Change and receipt.
And what was the other thing that you went over there for?
Not the honey Snickers.
Right. What's next? Oh, so, yes, my favorite of all time, The Revolution by Ron Paul. This has reference to the American Revolution. I've read this book over and over again, made notes on it. You can almost open to a random page and find some kind of gem of wisdom. Fantastic. Oh, here you go. It's referring to a book called Omnipotent Government, which I've read portions of, released in the 1940s. And that work refers to basically the government gets in bed with corporations, and the corporations basically help keep the population under control. And I guess that's not a perfect synopsis, obviously. But that's true in my business. That's what I do. I'm an unpaid, state-mandated tax collector. I make sure everyone pays their taxes that works for me. I take it right out of their paychecks before they even see it. I'm going to pass it along. So that's what corporations do. Anyway, The Revolution by Ron Paul. It's 167 pages. You owe it to yourself to read this book. Now in America, this is a candidate that is really strong right now, and you really don't know Ron Paul unless you read this book, and that's my belief in general. You really don't know a political candidate until you've read his books. If you are just getting your information from radio and TV, not well informed. Probably not even well informed from a lot of magazines either. But I'm omnivorous. I read lots of different things, as you shall see. So in 2008, I read this. This is during the Republican primaries. And the next book is Faith of My Fathers by John McCain. I read it at the same time, even though I was not a fan. And I was still not a fan after reading this book. I thought it was a little pretentious, and it was more of a biography. This should be titled "How Great I Am." So, and it did, because it didn't tell me anything about what I wanted to know, which is, what is your, foundation for your political thought process, your philosophy. And although you did find out a lot of personal stuff, which I guess could be construed into whatever that is, there's really nothing there. A little bombastic. Audacity of Hope by Barack Obama. Yes, I read this. And if you count rereading sections, probably read it about time and a half. maybe even 2 times since I've read some sections more than twice. Yeah, I made lots of notes, underlined it. I do admit I got that from college. I learned how to professionally read a book and just really, rip it into pieces. You'll notice I have a little pink sticky note in it here. And bought it at Walmart, by the way. Oh, and by the way, I buy hardbacks and I ditch the sleeves. Don't like the sleeves. I love this on my bookshelf. Just plain old, plain old. Although the sleeves do increase their value. So here it is. This page 178 is what I think is the very core of the book. Is basically that if people are left to their own, you will always have winners and losers. And unless, here's my favorite one, unless we're willing to see seniors starve on the street, we're going to have to cover their retirement expense one way or another. And since we don't know in advance which of us will be the losers, it makes sense for all of us to chip into a pool that gives us at least some guaranteed income in our golden years. All right, I'm back. And so all I have to say to that is, where are these seniors that are going to starve in the streets? I'd like to meet them. Where are people so hard-hearted? Could it be in my neighborhood? What do I need to do? So the call to action is for the government to take action rather than for individuals, families, and communities to take action. So it's not that you should let seniors starve. It's what is the method by which you are going to take care of that. So it's a toughie. But the one thing is, I did like Obama because at least he's well thought out. And by the way, and so this book is easy to quote out of context, and I saw that during the campaign too. They just picked certain things that he said. No, if you read the whole thing, he'll take a whole chapter to say, well, there's this, and there's this, and there's this. So I thought about it this way, and this is my conclusion. So that was nice. Don't agree with the conclusions. I am thoroughly against the ideas in this book, but at least I did him the courtesy of reading it. So, same thing. Everyone that says something about Ron Paul that's negative, I just, or he's unelectable, I just say, have you read any of his books? No, I didn't think so. Have you donated any money to any candidate this year? Well, I have. And so, oh yeah, we're talking politics. So let's keep going. So like when I went to a state convention, yeah, we're not keeping going. When I went to state convention, so it's a Republican convention, there's like 3,000 delegates in there, and they show pictures of like Nancy Pelosi, boo, everybody boos. They show pictures of Barack Obama, oh, everybody boos. And I don't boo. I don't do that. I may disagree, but I don't like the, childishness of it, dare I say. That it's like, if these people have the wrong ideas, if their ideas in the end are harmful, and there are ideas that are harming me, my family, my community, and the people that work here at my company, they're hurting them. We're the class of people being hurt, so another class of people can be benefited. And so you should speak out. Speak out. So anyway, yeah, is booing speaking out? All right, here's a business book, Freedom Incorporated. This is one of my faves. I'm going through it for the second time. I picked it up on a whim. I just, they have a whole section like a Barnes and Noble, and this one kind of caught my eye. It's a great read. It basically means if you pick the right people, then you don't need to have controls on them. They will just do the right thing. They'll do better than what you had expected. And in a way, this guy stole my ideas, because we do that here at BTP. I believe if you get the right people, you instill kind of the why are we doing things, then you don't need to micromanage every single aspect. All right, who's next? Oh, the Mormon way of doing business. This is still has the sleeve on. It's because I have 2 copies for some reason. Not sure why. Wow, $26. Yikes. It was a decent read, but they probably could have condensed this down to about 5 pages, which is, you know, make sure you spend some time with your family too. So there's that one. Thomas Paine, Common Sense. Fantastic. Restore some sense of shame to that shameless body. That's what I've handwritten on there. Natural state of man is free. I was reading this. Oh, here's a. What did I? Some perhaps will say that after we've made it up with Britain, she will protect us. Can they be so unwise? So this is still relevant today. Oddly, if you just replace Britain with United States federal government, you got it about right. So there's that. What I liked one part of this that said, lest they think us lacking for not having a crown, i.e. the new American government, let us, was that Jefferson? Well, anyway, let us demolish the crown and distribute the pieces among the people. Isn't that great? And that's how it is. Every single person has a shining shard of a crown inside of them. It's their individual liberty that God Himself granted to them before the earth was framed. That He had the right to rule and control and reign and decide every little thing. But instead of doing that, He gave us freedom to choose what we wanted to do. And in a way, He is leaving us alone, not entirely, to see what we do. What is it that you really want? So, Common Sense, fantastic read. Still relevant, and it's because all those old guys, all the founders, they were talking about human nature. Oh, they lived in a different time with farming and not with jets and everything interconnected. Yeah, but people are the same. People still have, you know, they lord it over their fellow man. Open veins of Latin America. Wow! You're going to kind of be depressed reading this. And I actually did a lot of Latin American studies. By the way, this is by Eduardo Galeano. And it is, this is translated from Spanish. And I went to college for a degree in Spanish, so I read a lot of books by Latin American authors. And so this seemed familiar to me. And it's different. It's different in South America. For them, capitalism usually means someone coming in and exploiting their natural resources and labor. So, but I got this book because I saw a thing where, what was it, that President Obama was at the United Nations and the Venezuelan president, Hugo Chavez, gives him a book, right? And everyone's like, how dare he give a book to our president? Like he's telling him what he should think. And for me, sitting there, I was like, I wonder what the book is. And of course, they don't tell you on the news channel because, of course, you know, the news is about deciding what choices are going to be put in front of you. It's a bit of mentalism, that. It's mind control. So anyway, I read it, I made notes, it was pretty depressing, but it is certainly a good read, and it's entitled 5 Centuries of the Pillage of a Continent, and it's a hard read though. Scarcely do the dictators grasp their scepters, but they give away the resources to foreign countries and companies. Something like that. What he says. An Inconvenient Book by Glenn Beck. I actually don't remember much about this one. Generally, pretty conservative. Got some things in here. Glenn Beck, I think, is kind of mainstream now. And I think, just my opinion, I just get the sense like maybe he's been bought. And, of course, I am such a Ron Paul devotee that unless people are given props to RP in the House. They don't get any respect. That was terrible. Anyway, here we go. Where the Right Went Wrong. I haven't. This is by Patrick Buchanan. I haven't read this in so long that I can't even remember what was in it. Generally, if I had to say that there was a general theme to this book, it is about this is about the birth of neoconservatism. That there's an old conservatism, and then there's a new one, which basically isn't very conservative at all. It's American imperialism, and in fact, that is, and I don't think a lot of people see it, but there's a major two ideas formulating, and one is it's a concept of America has gotten so much power. The United States has gotten so much power that in fact, I'm going to do a whole different video just on this. But in a nutshell, it is that the United States has such power that it should now dominate the global scene and keep every other country in power kind of on its heels so that we can preserve that. And then there's another one, which is the Ron Paul Foreign Policy of Freedom book, which I'm going to talk about in a minute, which is that actually it makes us less safe, because every time you push back on somebody, people don't like that. And that will eventually come back and end up poorly for you. So in a way, it's long vision versus short vision, I suppose. And you know, if you read all of these books, you'd probably have some really good, diverse anchor points to kind of see what is going on. Which is, in short, the war on terror is being won by Gatorade. Yeah, that explains it in about a sentence. All right, yeah, I was watching a special, it was like a little movie documentary thing about soldiers in Afghanistan who would sweep the roads clear of IEDs, of the roadside bombs. And I was thinking to myself, well, the bombs wouldn't be there unless we were there. But millions are being spent, right, to do this. And I'm just like, wow, they're just bleeding out. Like, my studio could work for could pay taxes for 100 years. And it would pay for these guys to remove these devices for like 3 weeks. And I was just like, seriously? But then I saw this giant cargo plane, and they were unloading pallets of Gatorade. Aha! There you go. It's war profiteering. Meltdown by Thomas E. Woods, Jr. By the way, ladies and gentlemen, read your books, because you will do better in life and better in business. Meltdown, this is an economics book that was published shortly after, in 2008, after the housing crisis, right? It's not a crisis, it's not an accident, it wasn't an earthquake, it was something that came about as a result of our monetary policy. And this book gave, I think, the best explanation of what was really going on. And as you can see, it's, you know, I've marked it up, and, you know, my favorite part, made some notes. I dog-ear the best parts so I can find them real easy later on. And, yeah, there is no justification in history for the existing position. Oh yeah, thesis. When I'm reading these books, I look for what is the core thing. Audacity of hope, winners and losers. You got to make sure you even it out. Of this one, and by the way, this is he's quoting somebody else, but I thought this was kind of the thesis of this book. There is no justification in history for the existing position of a government monopoly of issuing money. It has never been proposed on the ground that government will give us better money than anybody else could. It has always, since the privilege of issuing money was first explicitly represented as a royal prerogative, been advocated because the power to issue money was essential for the finance of the government, not in order to give us good money, but in order to give government access to the tap where it can draw money it needs by manufacturing. You know what, I think this is a little low. Let me just raise that up a tad. There we go. Yeah, has my head been like cut off this whole time? That, ladies and gentlemen, is not a method by which we can hope to ever get good money to put into the hands of an institution which is protected against competition, which can force us to accept the money, which is subject to incessant political pressure. Such an authority will not ever again give us good money. When you go out to the store and you find out that your $2 only buys $1.75 of goods, that's rotten money. That's like an apple with a big old rotten spot in it. It's just being eaten away. Oh, look, I got an apple, but, 1/8 of it is rotten. Thanks. That's rotten money. I dream of paying my workers directly, that when James gets his paycheck, he doesn't get it and find there's a bite out of it. That, by the way, got redistributed to my mother. That's not common welfare. That's hurting one group to benefit another group. Or that it got melted down to into bullets and sprayed around in some Afghan marketplace. So, I want to pay my people in commodity-backed money directly. Just, they earned $500, here's $500. That's fair. Now, go take care of your parents. Go take care of society. And if people are so evil, so wicked on the whole, that they won't do that, well, then that's what we deserve. That you can't, because I keep hearing that. Well, we need good people up there to make us do the right thing. That's basically it. Oh, if everyone were as good as you, Sean. Oh, really? So you're ready to let me be hurt, me, Sean Gately, and my institution here, to be hurt just because some other people might do the wrong thing? Really? Does that sound moral or fair to you? Does that sound like liberty and justice to you? No, it does not. Liberty's a bad thing too. It means you might do the wrong thing. Maybe I'll have to take care of 2 mothers because some other guy decided to get high on meth. And the people that are working hard have to pick up the slack. But the beauty of the direct system is that you got to do it. Humans need that. They need that direct connection where they're helping someone else. Or they're helping an institution that helps someone else and they volunteer at that institution, whatever it is. So anyway, Andrew Napolitano, A Nation of Sheep. Read it only once, but pretty good. It's about the dangers to civil liberties in our days. And even since he wrote this book, more civil liberties have been eroded. I go to the airport and they say, stand here while we scan you. Oh my God, could there be something more invasive? Will they do a scan where just like they can just see my organs and everything? That's the very definition of invasion of privacy. Oh, don't like it? Well, go get a cavity search. Oh, holy crap, I don't want to get that. So I guess I'll just go through the scanner. Ah, you used fear to make me do something I didn't want to do. What is that? Glenn Beck broke. Pretty good, just the standard stuff, lots of great pictures. I have to admit, I only got about halfway through. So, there you go. And I'll probably go back and revisit it. But Glenn, I don't know, something's not quite right. All right, America by Jon Stewart. By the way, big fan. I think I read it 3 times. It's hilarious. It's well illustrated. You do have to watch out, though. There is a section where the Supreme Court justices are completely nude. By the way, I'm not looking for that right now. So it's written like a textbook. It even has this little textbook thing in the front. This book is a property of whoever. So I have to say it's pretty hilarious. What did I think about the substance? It's good lampoon, but it's a typical thing. There's these problems. Solution: more massive centralized government because people can't be trusted. Corporations can't be trusted. All right. End the Fed. Ba-blam! I think I bought 3 copies. This one's still jacketed. I loan them out to people that work at banks. This talks about the Federal Reserve, which should be an item of intense interest to every American citizen. Effectively, the bottom line is banks have a charter because of the Federal Reserve Act, if I'm right, to counterfeit money. I looked up on Wikipedia. By the way, I love Wikipedia. And it gave reasons why counterfeiting was immoral. It gave 4 reasons. The 4th one was that it was illegal. But I'm like, that's not the same thing. So all 3 of those things apply. In fact, a friend of mine and I were taking a walk, and I was just doing some math in my head, because I love like da-da-da-da-da-da. How many houses do you suppose are in this city? I'm going to guess 10,000. 4 people per house, 40,000 people, let's just say. Just estimates. And we estimated that $70 million a month goes out of my city and into the coffers of the banks every month in the form of interest payments on mortgages. What would it look like if there were no banks? I often ask myself that. Why are there 10 giant banks on a 14-block Main Street? By the way, you might be like, you said 13 last time. Yeah, you know, I'm just rounding here, people. So, you might ask, why are there so many banks? It's because they counterfeit money. If I could do that, that'd be great. Here's how it would work. If I were a bank, if I had the power of a bank, if the banks gave me a charter, a legal charter, to do what they do, here's how it would work. I'd start First Bank of Sean Gately. I'd get my workers to deposit their checks and pay their bills. Let's say, obviously, I need a wider base than just the people that worked here, but let's say I managed to get $500,000 into the First Bank of Sean Gately. With a charter from the Federal Reserve, I'm allowed to, through fractional reserve banking, to counterfeit, to create out of thin air, to produce up to 10 times that amount. So $500,000 becomes $5 million. So I go out and I make loans, I blew out all this money, and now what happens to prices? Prices go up. That's why houses are so expensive. Which is a vicious cycle, because now the only way you can get a house is to go to a bank and get loans, and the only reason they have the money is they're counterfeiting the money. Oh, it's wretched. So if you got rid of the banks, what you'd see is you'd see housing prices drop, and wages would go up because there wouldn't be the interest, right? Until finally, people would just make a connection. A house that costs $30,000, you'd have to, let's just say for example, you'd have to live at home for maybe 2 or 3 years. But you'd be able to save up, and you'd buy that, and then you'd just be in your house. And that's what happens. When you pay rent, let's say you pay $800 a month for rent, guess what? Between $300 and $500 of that money, the landlord gets it, he passes it on to the bank. So when you rent, you don't get the tax deduction for it. I guess the landlord does. But you're still paying interest. So the banks come in and they don't have anything, but now they own all this property. And if everyone goes along with it, that's great. The blood doth flow. But now you've got a thing where there's 3.5 million homeless people in the nation and 18.5 million empty houses. There's 5 empty houses for 1 homeless person. Imagine that. Can you even imagine that? Isn't that amazing? You wouldn't even need that many. You could put 4 people in 1 house. But so instead of 4 people per 1 house, well, no, that's not the national average, but you get the idea. 1 homeless person, 5 empty houses. That's insane. That's insane. And so how does this happen? How come this person can't get and afford and somehow get into any of these houses? Or have other people upgrade and then he gets into one of the humble homes? He or she. It's because of the banking system. The banks have created a distortion. They've created like some kind of horrible, nightmare reality for everybody. And that's the pressure that you feel. that downward pressure, like you just can't pay off all your bills. And then you have an emergency, and it's like, oh, all right, well, use the credit card. It's because of that, it's pushing down. It's insane. So anyway, foreign policy of freedom. Okay, first, this is by Ron Paul. Look at that guy. So he is, and by the way, I didn't start being a fan of Ron Paul. I got that way through reading. And people call Ron Paul supporters Paul bots. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, let's look at that suffix. The bot part, robot, it implies acting without thinking, just kind of taking orders, right? But that's not true. Most of the Ron Paul supporters I know are the exact opposite. They're people who have read and read and read and read and finally went, wait a minute, yeah, this isn't right. And we want it in a different way. And in a way, and that's the beauty of Ron Paul, is that he wants to reduce the power of the executive branch. It's the old libertarian conspiracy. The libertarians are going to take over and then they're going to leave you alone. And that's it. I'm not trying to take the reins of power to somehow control what other people do. I'm attempting to remove the controls from my own life. Other people, even my great-grandparents, they voted themselves in a system that persists to this day that I have to suffer under. Before I was even born, they came up with this stuff. And I don't like it. Oh, but it's not so easy to change it now, is it? But nothing to be done. You just have to keep plugging away. Anyway, foreign policy of freedom is really just, it's at viewpoints. American imperialism, that's what it is, versus American individualism. That people may want to follow us through emulation, but we have to preserve our own liberties and our own prosperity at home. But you can't, it comes down to a fundamental thing. Shall one person use force on another person? And that goes all the way up to a national level. And so this speaks out against it. But this is really just a collection of his speeches. So I was a little disappointed because I'd read The Revolution, and this was a little harder of a read. It's kind of a potpourri. And this book is older than The Revolution, by the way. 5,000-Year Leap. Good read. A lot of people refer to it. It basically says once you get rid of tyranny, creativity can flow, and you can get a better result from that. That all these inventions and all this wonderful progress has happened because of the American experiment. So ties in a little bit to the Revolution, the American Revolution, and also the book The Revolution by Ron Paul. We're going to save that one for last. Leave Us Alone by Grover Norquist. Grover's a bit of a neocon, not a big fan for him on that, but I think fundamentally it's that idea of, you know, removing controls on individuals, and there's a lot of good parts in here. I have kind of picked away at it a second time, made lots of notes. Incompetence is a reason to fire someone. It's talking about government workers. But boy, once you get in the public sector union, good luck. Good luck. To bind it down. That's bind it means government power. To bind it down with the chains of the Constitution and popular will. The goal is not to try and use the ring of power for good, but to hurl it into the fires of the pits of Mordor. Before we can look forward to how we can reduce the power of the state to tax, control, and destroy, we can learn a great deal from our own history of the government's exercise of the power to tax. America's officially worst president, Woodrow Wilson, according to Grover Norquist. And I have seen this gentleman in person. He came to the last state convention, or was it the county convention? Okay, I'm pretty sure it was a county convention. But yeah, he's definitely an influencer. The future envisioned by the American left can be glimpsed in Europe today. Near guaranteed job security and unemployment payments almost as high as the after-tax pay for work. This in return for a lower standard of living. Huh, is that true, I wonder? Is that really true? All right, next thing. Godless by Ann Coulter. Oh man, I'm a little actually embarrassed to have read this book, but it was a fun read, and sometimes when I want something light and hilarious, I will pick it up because she's kind of mean, but she's got good, I guess, good semantics. You know, it's hold on a second. Basically, the premise of this book is that there is a state religion of materialism, and this religion has priests, which are teachers, and it has sacraments, the sacrament being abortion, something like that. And yeah, it goes on. It's pretty tenuous, but it is a fun read, I think, if you are a little bored. Small Giants, awesome book on business. Absolutely fantastic. I highly recommend. Small Giants basically says, you know what? You don't have to let your company become this giant thing and have an IPO and have a chairman of the board or whatever. Instead of letting your business grow really super big, keep it small and just make it awesome. And this has really guided a lot of my, I guess, thinking about how I've set up my own business. And right now I'm trying to hybridize the two. Like, can I make like little internal franchises where people could be benefited as much as I have been or will be, but still kind of keep it in the family, so to speak. All right, we're almost to the end. The shock doctrine. Oh wow. Okay, if I had to say read two books, if I had to pick two, I'd say The Revolution and this one. This is my second fave. I love Naomi Klein. Oh man, I want to go to lunch with Naomi Klein. That's kind of my dream. I think that may have to happen someday. But she is just so smart and so articulate, and this makes sense. This book explained Gatorade coming off of the cargo plane, which is basically the shock doctrine goes like this. And if you request it, I'll put a link to some of her videos. Well, you can just get on YouTube and just type in the shock doctrine. And she explains it really well. The shock doctrine is that there are shocks, man-made and natural, that make populations, societies, and countries give up their rights and resources that they wouldn't have ordinarily done that. For example, the tsunami a couple of years back wiped out these coastal villages. When the villagers came back, they found out that these giant hotel chains had come out with private security and cordoned off huge sections of beach. See? So there was a shock, and then this entity comes in, and they're ready. Their legislation is just waiting in the wings to come in for when the emergency happens. Or I believe Rahm Emanuel, who's Obama's chief of staff, I think the quote goes something like, never let a good emergency go to waste. Basically, take advantage of people while they're vulnerable. And she compares it to torture, too. That when you shock somebody, when you torture them, you make them regress to a childlike state, and then you effectively just break them, and the whole countries can be shocked. So this makes sense. My only disagreement is her conclusion. Her conclusion is you need a giant central government to protect you from the shocks. No, you need a culture of liberty and individualism and 6 months supply of food and fuel to keep you from being shocked. That you can't be starved, you can't be sieged, you already kind of know what's going on. And that's what I'm trying to do, partly through these Gatelynomics videos, is help people understand when the shock comes, what it is that they can do about it. For example, I believe this is post-World War II, vast devastation in Europe, that there was a small village called Warkle, and everyone's unemployed, and the guy's like, yeah, there's no money. And so the mayor's like, all right, well, let's just print some money. And he made like tokens, vouchers for services. And they had like a whole internal system, so this one village was doing great, because it got everybody kind of going again. Which you might say, well, isn't that the argument for stimulus? No, I don't think it's the same thing. Because that's on the net adding money without backing it with something. And the Wargle money was that you would do something and then you would like invest a value in the medium of exchange. Anyway, that's the best I understand it. But the best thing, one of the best things I got out of this book, oh, and by the way, it is a hard read. Look how dense that is. That is dense. It is tough. And this book is extremely well documented. Like, the references in here are insane. Just absolutely insane. It is a work of art. It's really amazing. And I read it all. I read all 466 pages and took notes. It's really amazing. But one of the best things I got out of the book is the idea of torture. The torture isn't meant always to get information. It's meant to give information. It's a message. Mess with us, and bad things will happen to you. All right, I'm back. Yeah, that was actually a break there. Okay, next book, business book. Highly recommend. I've read it, I think, 3, possibly 4 times. Les Schwab, Pride in Performance, Keep It Going. So this is written by not a very, this is the writing in this is pretty rough, but it's sincere, it's down to earth, and it tells the story straight. This is about Les Schwab, which is kind of a big tire chain over on the East Coast. Very familiar to me. We always had a Les Schwab in my town. And this book is great for getting ideas, how to run it, profit sharing programs, kind of just, you know, and Les Schwab was a natural businessman. And it tells the history of the company, talks a little bit about, talks a little bit about politics in terms of, like, you know, insurance companies going out of control, stuff like that. Blam! Les Schwab. Economics in One Lesson. Do recommend. It's a pretty light read, 200 pages. This is definitely a free market type of book, and by Henry Hazlitt. Shortest and surest way to understand basic economics. And it's older, but this book will give you a lot of ideas. Last book. So I read this, and I was like, where's the opposite of that? Like, this says the free market is the best thing, just leave people alone. You know, free market means not stocks and bonds, it means you and me. So when a babysitter goes around the neighborhood with flyers saying, hey, I can come babysit for you, that in a way is a primeval form of the free market. And so I tried to find a book that was the opposite, saying basically, well, here's why that's terrible and you need controls on it. And that is Myth of the Rational Market. This book basically talks about like the stock market, and it was a tough read. It's very dense, and basically it says, no, you need tight governmental controls to keep things from running away. But if you take a few steps back, it runs away to begin with because there's meddling in it. There are bailouts, for example. So Myth of the Rational Market. This made me realize that the common man is how do I explain this? Economics, by being complicated, can keep the common man from ever asking any questions. You know, this is too hard for you to understand, so just let people that are smarter than you deal with it. No. So in a way, this book helped me form the idea of Gatelynomics, which is, no, I understood this, I just don't agree with it. But I think a lot of people would read this book and just not even get past the first chapter, say, well, I can't understand it, I'm just going to go about my business. You know, no, you have to try and understand what's going on. And even if you don't understand, have an opinion, at least for the time being. How do things affect you? What's going on in your life? So ask questions. That's it. There's probably more that I have like lent out, or that I didn't keep, or that I lost, or maybe they're at home. I really don't know. But yeah, here, take a look at the stack. Ta-da! So, and I read them all carefully, with possibly a few exceptions in there. Yep, and that's where I would start. For politics, I would do Shock Doctrine and the Revolution by Ron Paul. Those are, they're different. They talk about kind of the same things, but the conclusions are different. One is, well, individual liberty solves this. The other one is almighty centralized government solves this, and that's really the only way to go. Well, and both of them say it's the only way to go. So good anchor points. I'd say if you were to follow websites and you wanted 2 anchor points with, and that's the trick. You've got to get you can't get comfortable where you are. Go out and look at different things. Tell me how I'm wrong. Tell me how I'm completely wrong. I want to know. And so I would recommend, online I'd recommend Infowars.com. That's Alec Jones's site. And at first you'll be like, well, this guy's really out there. But the more I look at things, kind of try and get it from different angles, I'm like, certain things really make sense. That he talks about that the 2-party system in the United States is really only one party. And I think that's becoming common knowledge now. And and then you've got, so by the time it comes around to elections, you don't have a choice. No choice. It's going to be certain critical things are going to be exactly the same no matter who you put in office. Now some people, they give up. They say, well, I can't do anything about it. I call you morally recalcitrant. You should have at least tried. You got to get up, got to do something. At least do something. At least the I'm disgusted vote. Go into every single poll and vote for a third party. For example, just do something. You did something. Oh, but no. Nothing I can do. I'll just play Halo 3. No! No! You gotta try. If the tank is barreling, you do something. It's like that final scene of Private Ryan. You know? That it's like you gotta at least try. At least try. Throw a pea at the tank if you can. And as usual, all nonviolent, peaceful, but I also will speak out. And I'm not going to act like I'm afraid. I am not afraid. You gotta use that freedom of speech while you still have it, and speak out loudly and vociferously. Yeah, oh, so the websites, you're like, God, you really got off topic. Infowars.com and MSNBC. MSN.com, I think it is. On one, because on one, that is state television there, basically. You're being given the state version of things. And, you know, I saw some kind of video. No, it was actually a documentary on North Korea. And I noticed everybody's house had, or even in public squares or whatever, had Kim Jong-il's picture there, right? And they're bowing and whatnot. And I'm thinking, what happens when you don't know anything different from birth? That no alternate thing has been presented to you. Now, what if you have alternate things presented to you, but as a whole, they're really only just one viewpoint? So that's even better, because then there's the illusion of alternate viewpoints. So, well, I gotta go. I hope you enjoyed. I don't really, just as a PS, I don't mean to be preachy. I do feel strongly about a lot of things. I am indignant that other people have used political force to make me work for free and be part of their plans. I don't want to be part of your plans, you coercive utopians. Let me make my own plans for my own life. And if people don't like those, they can not be around me, not work for me, not be part of my organization, not watch my YouTube channel. That's fine. Freedom of association. Vote with your eyeballs, vote with your wallet, vote with your time.